Hello friends, on this occasion, Group 4 will present the International Monetary Fund or IMF. This presentation is submitted as part of the International Organization and Administration course. Before going to the discussion, I will introduce the members of Group 4. The first is Elda Eldianita, the second is Eva Aisyah, the third is Haniatul Ufa, and the fourth is Ibnu Fahri. Okay friends, let's just go straight to the material discussion.
Definition of International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund is a forum to strengthen countries that want to conduct global monetary cooperation, assess international trade, maintain financial stability, increase the number of jobs, prioritize sustainable economic growth, and reduce poverty. Basically, the IMF is an international organization that is engaged in financial matters and also provides loans to each of its member countries. IMF encourages international monetary cooperation and provides policy advice and capacity building support to help countries build and maintain strong economies. The IMF also provides loans and help countries design policy programs to address balance of payment problem. When adequate financing on affordable terms cannot be obtained to meet net international payment obligations. The IMF loans are short and medium term and are mostly funded from the pool of quota contribution provided by its members. IMF staff are generally economic with extensive experience in macroeconomic and financial policy. The history of the establishment of the IMF. The IMF is an autonomous international financial institution formed on December 27, 1945 in Bretton Woods with its headquarters Massachusetts, Washington, D.C., United States of America. The formation of the IMF as a result of the Bretton Woods Conference which took place in 1944. In July 1944, when World War II began to show victory for the Allied forces, representatives from 45 countries gathered at the conference in Bretton Woods to negotiate the establishment of an international monetary system and formulate what kind of system should be created by the war ended. This meeting was also motivation by bad memories of the chaotic world economic situation before the World War took place. The goal is to create an international monetary system that is truly able to guarantee the creation of conditions of full employment and price stability while at the same time opening up opportunity of all countries to achieve external balance without imposing trade restrictions. One of the IMF missions is to help countries experiencing serious economic difficulty, and in return for which these countries are required to implement certain policies. The IMF was formed with the intention of encouraging promote the stable monetary system through its function as a regulatory agency in the international monetary sector. The basic rules of the IMF are referred to as the Article of Agreement of the IMF.
IMF goals. The IMF is responsible for the creation and maintenance of the international monetary system, the system in which international payments between countries take place. The IMF's objectives are: first, encouraging international monetary cooperation; second, facilitate the expansion and growth of a balanced international trade. Third, promote exchange rate stability. Fourth, assist in the establishment of a multilateral payment system. And last, provide a sort of assistance, accompanied by an adequate safeguard system to member countries experiencing balance of payments problems. The next is about IMF role. IMF has three roles for the member. First, IMF as supervision. The IMF is an organization that monitors member country policies and national, regional, and global economic and financial developments through a system known as oversight. The IMF advises member countries and encourages the design of policies that can increase economic stability, reduce vulnerability to economic and financial crises, and improve living standards. IMF as financial assistant. The role of the IMF is to provide loans to member countries that are currently or potentially experiencing balance of payments problems, which is the main responsibility of the IMF. The IMF provides financial support and works closely with the government so that the costs include a responsible expenditure. The loan program for each country is designed in close collaboration with the IMF and is supported by IMF funds, while the continuation of the loan depends on the effectiveness of implementing policy adjustment in the loan program. IMF as capacity building. The IMF is an organization that works with member countries to modernize their economic policies and institutions. The IMF provides technical assistance and training to help member countries build better economic institutions and strengthen their human resource capacities. This assistance covers inter alia ways to design and implement more effective policies in the areas of taxation and administration, budget management, monetary and exchange rate policy, supervision and regulation of the banking and financial system, legislative framework, and economic statistics.
IMF financial resources. The IMF source of finance come from the quotas of its member countries. Member quotas reflect the size and position of the country in the world economy. The IMF is funded by its member countries. Member countries pay according to the size of their economy, and voting rights are based on this quota. Of the 195 countries in the world, 190 countries are members of the IMF. Currently, the United States of America, China, Germany, and France are in the first place with the highest quota, while Indonesia is ranked 20. The decision-making process at the IMF is based on the number of shareholdings. The bigger the country's stake in the IMF, the more it has control over decisions. IMF members countries.
Indonesia's relation with the IMF. During Sukarno's reign, Indonesia's relationship with the IMF initially occurred during the early days of Indonesia's independence, when the Sukarno government was having difficulty tackling the economic problems damaged by the War of Independence. Indonesia, which had just emerged from the crisis caused by the war against the Dutch during the revolutionary period, submit a request to become a member of the IMF and the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. During the Suharto era, The first LOI in the Suharto era was on October 31, 1997. After requesting assistance from the IMF to restore market confidence and stabilize the rupiah, Indonesia received a $23 billion aid package. If IMF loans are not sufficient to stabilize the economic situation, Japan and Singapore pledged to increase aid by $3 billion and $5 billion respectively. On January 15, 1998, the second LOI was signed. Indonesia signed the LOI document and the IMF agreed on the disbursement of funds that had a systematic impact on liberalizing various strategic sectors in Indonesia, starting from the management of the state budget, banking, investment, oil and gas sector, mining sector, revocation of the Bulog monopoly, and all privatization. 2 months later, the IMF announced it was delaying a $3 billion reduction in aid, arguing that Indonesia had not met a number of conditions.
3. During B.J. Habibie's era, in July 1998, Habibie's first and last letter of intent, approval for an IMF aid program, was approved, and this time involving a corporate restructuring strategy as well as a broader banking restructuring program. However, during the Habibie period, there was the Bank Bali scandal. The government refused to make public the result of the Bank Bali audit as requested by the IMF, which resulted in the temporary suspension of the IMF program in September 1999. 4. During Gus Dur's era, the IMF's new agreement with Indonesia after the signing of the LOI in January 2000. This new agreement is very ambitious because it contains a long list of steps for a complex structural economic overhaul. But both the IMF and the government ignore the limits of the government's capacity to implement them. The gap between what has been agreed and what has been carried out has reduced the confidence of economic actors. 5. During Megawati Sukarno Putri's era, on July 23, 2001, Gus Dur was ousted and Megawati Sukarno Putri was sworn in as president. A month later, Megawati reached an agreement with the IMF to restart a $5 billion loan that was stopped in December. Implementation capacity, a problem that has existed since the Gus Dur administration. Since mid-2002, public opinion began to build up so that the government would not continue the IMF assistance program after it was completed at the end of 2003. At that time, Indonesia was the only country affected by the 1997 to 98 financial crisis, which still received IMF assistance. 6. During SBY's era, the debt to the IMF was only repaid during the era of President Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. Initially, Indonesia's remaining debt installment to the IMF were scheduled to mature in 2010, totaling $7.5 billion. However, as the Indonesian economy continued to improve, the government and Bank Indonesia decided to accelerate debt repayment in 2006. Since then, Indonesia has no longer owed the IMF but has remained a member country. 7. During Jokowi's era, the IMF and World Bank meetings were very controversial, where there were good and bad effects that Indonesia needed to pay attention to. One of them is about investment in infrastructure. During this annual session, the government offered 79 infrastructure projects with an investment value of $42 billion US dollar, or around 630 trillion to investors who attended. The project is managed by 21 owned companies and a total of 21 projects of a value 207 trillion. The government needs to be careful that many developing countries suffer from the agreements made by the IMF with several developing countries, because America, the IMF, and the World Bank held a meeting in Washington which resulted in the Washington Consensus, or KW. KW itself is essentially a formula that is more effective in trapping, subjugating, and controlling developing countries. This formula is in the form of a program called a structural adjustment policy that must be implemented by developing countries in their development as an absolute condition for granting foreign loans and in order to overcome the crisis and economic downturn.
On this occasion, I will discuss the issue and how to overcome it. Hopefully, my explanation is useful for this lesson. The IMF cut its forecast for global economic growth due to the war between Russia and Ukraine. Indonesia economic growth forecasts were also trimmed. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) cut his forecast for global economic growth in this year to 3.6%. Prediction slowed down compared to last year's 6.1% realization. Meanwhile, the forecast for global economic growth next year will not hang at the level of 3.6%. The ongoing war in Ukraine and sanctions against Russia are expected to dampen global growth this year. This shock comes just as the threat from the Omicron variant appears to be fading. With many parts of the world moving through an acute phase of the pandemic, the IMF said in its report, America economic growth was cut 0.3% to 3.7%. Likewise, China 0.4% to 4.4%. The war's impact on the Asian economy as a whole has been relatively limited compared to that of the European Union. This is because direct trade relations are indeed limited with both Russia and Ukraine. The spillover effect through the path of rising commodity prices and the direct impact through weakening demand for major trading partners are also not significant for Asia. Significant decline in growth projection in Japan and India reflect expected weaker domestic demand conditions. This is because higher oil prices will weigh on private consumption and investment, and lead to lower net export.
Thanks. A view presentation from Group 4. Do you have any question?